Hey everybody, how you doing? This is your teacher, your instructor, Sean David Hobbs. How you guys? So this is a podcast I'm making for my students primarily in the rhetoric department at the American University in Cairo. But of course, this can be viewed by anybody. This is public, so faculty can watch it. Anybody that wants to watch it and learn more about how we construct strong academic writing. Okay, so to this end, I have produced and created a presentation, which I will share with all my students, and we'll follow this along during this podcast. And I'm going to do so this is both a podcast and a screencast. So we're going to actually share the presentation while I talk about it. So we'll bring that up right now. And we see here, the title I'm giving this is Academic Writing and the Egyptian Juice-Making Metaphor. Okay, and I think, well, what's up with that? Well, let's take a look. First off, we talk about here the personal mind. And this is the mind that you guys use, a lot of my students use when you're coming out of high school. You know, you guys are new to being able to have an effect on the world. You're young adults and you're hanging out with friends, many of whom think like you. You have your own personal feelings and views, but oftentimes the process that you're doing when you're hanging out with your pals and your buds is in some ways not problematizing. The lack of skepticism is there. Oftentimes our personal thinking is based around subjective ideas, obviously, and is biased. And this is all very normal. Everyone has this, and I'll show you over here, guys. Right over here, you see the picture of some handsome university students circa 1996. This is to show you there actually may be an instructor here, someone who educates you, who with a little bit more hair, who was just like all of you guys, hanging out with his buddies in the university. In the university dorms his freshman year, back many moons ago. Okay, so everybody is pretty much starting from the same place, is what I'm trying to say to you guys. We're all in some ways connected with this idea of our own personal beliefs and our views and our biases, and that's a normal thing. It's a normal thing. You hang out with friends that have similar belief systems. You spend time with people who ultimately, think like you. And this is going to be true not just when you're all your age, right, in starting university, but it's also going to be true when you get older, like me. So we all have our own personal mind and our own personal perspective. But what I want us to start to think about and to really consider is the project of seeing how we can kind of grow beyond this and do something a little bit bigger, which I call the academic researcher mind. So this is the mindset that I'd like you all to start to be in and develop now that you are all in university. Now, our rhetoric courses here at American University in Cairo, we're in some ways, starting you guys off. This is, for many of you, this is your freshman or sophomore year course. And that's okay. But I want you guys to start to think about being able to conceive of yourselves beyond a personal mind, but to think of yourselves as researchers, as academics. And it doesn't matter that you're starting your freshman or sophomore year, or you could say, well, I'm 18, 19 years old. It doesn't matter. You are what you think you are. So if you can be professional in class, not friends, but colleagues with others in the academy, in the university, this is a great start. Okay? And when writing, do not talk about yourself in formal writing. Instead, refer to yourself in the singular objective. This researcher, one would suppose that. This author, the author. Now, a lot of, when I do I do beginning writing exercises when I give you free writing exercises. In those exercises, I expect you to say whatever you want. And in those exercises, if you want to write from a researcher, academic mind perspective, in which you are showing an objective, singular, this researcher, this thinker, you can write like that. But of course, you don't have to. You can write from a personal mind perspective. I think this, right? When I give you guys the space at the beginning of an essay process to really develop your ideas, then I don't mind whatever perspective you want to use. But when you make the final product, when the final product is created, that final product at the end essay, the final draft, needs to be formal, professional, and based around an academic or researcher type perspective. Okay, so again, now let's look back at this here. It's nice and you would, in this case, especially in the final drafts of your writing, remove the I, remove the we, and instead refer to yourself. If you're going to refer to yourself, and you don't have to do this, but if you do, this researcher, one would suppose, this author, not naming yourself. And why do this? Well, because when we do this, we're able to have an easier way of problematizing and complexifying, or making everything kind of more complex. And we're looking deeper at matters. We're questioning things. We're being skeptical. We're looking for the truth or a truth. Now, of course, some people will say the truth doesn't exist, or does maybe. But definitely a truth about a situation does. We can be relatively certain about that. We are searching for knowledge at the university. And we see that this is serious work, so we ask you to be serious. In this, we ask you to be objective, which is maybe somewhat an impossibility, I would agree. But at the very least, open-minded, which is certainly possible for you to do. And a lot of things have been written about the difficulty of being 100% objective. But in the researcher academic mindset, if we approach things as objectively, or at the very least open-minded as possible, our writing, our expression, our argument development becomes so much more rich. So now we're no longer arguing about a political perspective or a belief about one's personal religious or moralistic belief. We are now actually in some ways looking at the matter in a deeper perspective. We're looking at all different sides of an issue. Now, granted, at the end of the day, you will be making decisions and you will be biased. And this is in some ways why I say objectivity perhaps is impossible. But at the very least, being open-minded certainly is possible. So I ask you to be non-judgmental, non-personal, critique, analyze, argue. And most of all, I want you to create new ideas in your writing. I want new ideas from you. So being open-minded and objective makes your writing and knowledge production in the university and in your life third or fourth or even fifth dimensional. You're starting to think in a more complex way. So I have a metaphor for you on how to be good academic writers. Okay. I want you to think about juice, wonderful Egyptian juice. Imagine your academic writing is like a glass of Egyptian juice. And we see here, Egyptian juice is the best juice in the world. Subhanallah, gift of the Nile. And I really will tell all of you that those of you who are Egyptian, I know we have some non-Egyptians in our class, but we're all living here in Egypt, attending the American University here in the American University in Cairo. So we're exposed to this wonderful gift. It really is. From the Nile. The Nile creates my experience. And having traveled throughout Europe and lived in Turkey and lived all over the United States, is that Egypt by far has the greatest juice I've ever tasted. Okay, so with that said, let's go back to the See here. So imagine each one of your ideas is like a piece of Egyptian fruit. Okay? Imagine each one that you develop. Every single strange, wild, wonderful, different idea that you have is like a piece of Egyptian fruit. Okay? And my question for you is, how does the piece of fruit, your idea, go from this, i.e. the fruit, you see here the fruit, to this? And I say here, a great glass of qasab wa bortawan, or sugarcane juice and orange juice mixed, which is my honestly, this unequivocally is my favorite. Yeah, this is my, I love qasab wa bortawan. Yeah, and nos qasab wa nos bortawan, alhamdulillah. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, so what I want from you guys is to produce the metaphor of creating really good writing. Okay, and I'm making this metaphor. Your end result writing would be like a great glass of Egyptian juice. Okay, but the question then is, how do you get there? How do you produce your ideas, which are again the symbol of the fruit, to the juice? How do these two things happen? You have great ideas, and really, all of you as students, I mean, I'm impressed when I open up class conversation and see all the different ideas that you develop. It's really interesting for me. But ultimately, the question is, how do you get these great ideas that you guys can express to me in class over here to wonderfully produced writing, i.e. great juice that I want to drink? So, how do you do this? Well, I'm going to show you. You need tools, okay? Basically, you need fruit strainers like these. And we see this is a qasab strainer or a sugarcane strainer, right? Or we've got here the orange juice strainer. This is another thing like an orange juice strainer, right? So if your personal ideas are as varied as tasty fruit, how do you get the subjective ideas from your personal mind to the objective writing of being an academic at university, the researcher academic mind? Okay. Well, there are three main strainers you can use to create good writing. Okay. Wahed, number one. There's a symbol of our sugarcane strainer, the qasab strainer. Okay. We say here, walk, do not run. I want from you short, sharp, tight sentences. They should be 1 to 1.5 lines. I need to know where the subject, verb, and object, if necessary, is. And you know that some verbs don't actually use an object. That's what I really need to be able to see. I need to see from you guys, and this is something I see from early level students in the university. Certainly not just, I don't want you to think this is individual. I see this from many students. Okay? I see people who create giant sentences that are as long as a paragraph, 5, 6 lines. And I'm not even sure by the end of all that writing, where is the subject again? What verb were we talking about? There's 3 new verbs in here. The object isn't clear. Okay, you guys have great ideas, but you need to limit those huge giant sentences. Okay, so let me show you here's an example then of some of these giant sentences, okay? Let's look at this. Do not write confusing personal mind sentences like, the writer employed logos in the section where Superman is not willing to kill one person or to save billions of people. And here the writer is trying to be reasonable, and since Superman cannot violate his code, that's why he cannot kill even if he is going to save millions by killing this one. And we can see here that the writer is trying to persuade us by logical reasons. Whoa. As a teacher, it's like you just took that fruit and you shoved it in the glass without straining at all. You got all these different things happening. Nothing's clear to me. Nothing's clear. Where's the subject? Clear one subject. Where's the verb? Clear one verb. No. This is much too complex and pushed together and thrown together. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so what will work? Well, let's bring that back up again. Okay. Instead, walk, do not run. Break the writing into smaller ideas and tighter sentences with defined subjects and verbs and objects. This is academic mind writing, like this. The writers employed logos in the section where Superman is not willing to kill one person in order to save billions of people. Full stop, period. Wonderful. Here, the writers were trying to show reason and logic. Period. New sentence. Alhamdulillah. Since Superman cannot violate his code, that's why he cannot kill anyone, even if he is going to save millions by killing one person. All right, it's a decent sentence. Maybe we could have cut that sentence because it's in some ways repeating what we heard before. But it's a good sentence anyway because it's structured in the right way. And we also see that punctuation is very key. Capitalization, using the period correctly. Finally, all of this again shows how the authors are using logic or logos to prove their point. Okay, now there, and again, I'm not going to lie to you and say that this is a perfect set of sentences. No, there's some problems. Perhaps the third sentence could have been cut. But all the same, it's well organized. The punctuation's clearly stated. We have tight, sharp sentences with a clear object, pardon me, with a clear subject, a clear verb, and if necessary, and remember some verbs are transitive and intransitive, so some verbs won't actually get an object, but if necessary, an object. It's clear. Now, there might be small errors in this. In fact, I can work with you guys on small errors within sentences. As long as you organize your sentences around one idea that's structured, that's tight, not 5 or 12 different ideas mashed together into one crazy sentence. No, one idea, clear subject, clear verb, perhaps an object, perhaps not. That's what we need to see from you. Okay, let's go back into this some more. Okay. And finally, also with this bit of the strainer, the first way that you can strain your writing, always use good punctuation in tight, sharp sentences. And if you have any problems with this, click here, and you're able then to go to a site that's going to show you all about proper English grammar and punctuation. Check this stuff out. These are things that can help you. I'm also going to share this document so you'll be able to actually not even need to write in this email. You can just click on it when I share the presentation with you. But definitely check this website out if you have any questions about your grammar and punctuation, or especially if I make comments about it. 2, okay, the second kind of strainer to make good writing. No empty filler. Do not overuse adjectives, which describe nouns, adverbs, which describe verbs, and modifiers. Modifiers equal very, many, much, a lot of. They show the quantity of things, they show how things are modified, quantified. So here's an example of what we don't want in A. Okay. Not only was it used abundantly by the authors, it came perfectly in place, leaving the reader with no other option to be convinced, or at the very least impressed with how logic was very deftly implied between every single word. In the coming lines, we'll get a lot deeper in the article, mentioning, discussing, and analyzing how this article is a logos masterpiece. Okay, everything I wrote in red here is problematic. Masterpiece itself actually is a noun, but basically it's a problem because the writer is saying that something is a masterpiece without problematizing, without thinking about it. The other things are all adverbs, adjectives, overuse of modifiers. All of this is empty. It's mush. It doesn't really say anything. But you're putting these words in, or if not you, but the writer is putting these words in. He or she writes these to, in some ways, fill up the space. And I know that people are trying to reach 3 pages if I give you a 3-page essay, or 4 pages if I give you a 4-page essay, or 5 pages, whatever. But the thing is, or even longer with my 1020 course. But don't write gunk, filler stuff, and try to pass it off as good writing, because it won't work. I'll realize it immediately that you're trying to, what we say, you're trying to do what we call padding your writing. So that's like sticking a lot of extra stuff in to make your writing go longer. Every teacher sees this, right? It's not that hard to see. In place of putting all of these adjectives and adverbs and over modifiers and trying to fill up, making these big sentences, in place of doing that, developing new ideas and new idea production and asking the bigger whys and putting and really questioning why we like this and questioning who doesn't like what or who's against our argument. That's much better. If you got to worry about filling space up, just develop new ideas. Don't try to pad yourself, because the teacher sees it. And I'm going to promise you guys, you can't pass for my class if you do this filler. You also can't pass for my class if you overwrite and make these giant sentences. They don't make any sense. You got to keep things tight, and you got to remove the filler and develop new ideas. Let's go back and look at this a little bit more. Okay, going forward. A better example of the whole big thing that we wrote back there. The authors use logos. In the coming few lines, we will get deeper into the article, mentioning, discussing, and analyzing how they employed logos. That's it. You have tight ideas that explain clearly without bias or empty filler. You're not trying to stick in how wonderfully they use logos. No, just explain that logos was being habit. So the writer should have just explained the simple facts. And so really all you need to do with really, really good, research or academic writing. You don't need to give your own personal views and all your biases that you would do personally. No, you just need to state the facts honestly with an appearance toward objectivity, or at the very least open-mindedness. If you can do that, you've created really good academic writing. But if you try to convince someone of how you're feeling, etc., that's not good academic writing. Okay, let's again go back into this. All right, here we go. Moving on. We need to dig deep and develop new ideas and new ways of looking at the world and knowledge production. We need to examine the whys, the deeper reasons for things. And that's why the university is here, to ask the deeper whys of the world. So every university in the world is here to ask big questions. When you guys, and I've seen it, I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying, when I see this from students where we're just adding fluff, it means you're not actually developing the new ideas. And that's why I want you guys here. Heck, you can have problems with your writing. As long as you use these strainers, we can fix this. We can work through it. We can improve. So, let's move on. Number 3, the third kind of strainer you can do to make good academic writing. Okay, use the active voice. Active voice versus passive voice. Well, active always tells us who is the direct actor or subject. For this reason, active voice is honest and straightforward. So for example, I ask you, which sentence is better and why? Gaza has been hit by rockets, which is a passive voice. Or Israeli Defense Forces hit Gaza with rockets. Okay. Well, I would argue that Israeli Defense Forces hit Gaza with rockets is better, because it tells us who the actor is and what the actor did. And why is it better? Because active voice is about transparency and honesty. Now, with that said, am I saying you'll never ever use passive voice? You might. But active voice, creating an active voice, is so much more efficient in the development of just exactly who is doing what. Stating the facts. Of course, your facts will be in some ways influenced by a bias. I'm not saying that. Probably you are. But at the very least, you're stating facts clearly, so I know who did something, the actor, for example, in our example, the Israeli Defense Forces, right? That's stating exactly what happened. Now, the reason I gave this example is because I want you guys to remember that passive versus active actually has a huge import in how we understand the news and how we understand the world. The first example back here is Gaza has been hit by rockets. Doesn't tell us who. We don't know anything that happened. And if we're ignorant about the conflict in Gaza, like, for example, many Americans are, we just think, well, they're fighting over there. I don't know. But if you say to an American audience, Israeli Defense Forces hit Gaza with rockets, if you state that clearly, if you can put that absolutely 100% clearly, and we understand it, then suddenly you're changing the way your audience thinks. If you use active, you change how your audience thinks. They know exactly what happened. Even the most ignorant people start to understand what's going on as long as you use active voice. Again, would I say you never use passive? There are places for passive. But again, in our use of good writing in the academy, you should 99% of the time, even I'd say try to make it even 100% of the time, use active. Because that allows us to see where you need to go. When you guys get better at your writing, you can break all of these strainer rules. You can write bigger sentences. You can use passive voice sometimes. And occasionally, you know, of course, pepper in good modifiers, good adjectives, good adverbs. That's all okay. But first of all, you have to learn the critique, the way you do it. That is, again, tight sentences, using the active voice, and of course, not using too much filler, right? So that's what we're looking at with this. Now, we see this, that the active voice is about transparency and honesty, so you want to use it. Now, if you use these three strainers for your academic writing, these three strainers, your academic writing will be tight and good. Will be tight and good. Using these strainers will also help your other writing, make your other writing better. So, journalistic writing, prose writing, poetry writing. Really doesn't matter what kind of writing you're doing. Even if you're doing, you know, writing for, you know, engineering or etc. All forms of writing will improve with this, I promise. So if you take your ideas, and here we have the symbol of the oranges here, right? And you strain your ideas using the three strainers to walk, don't run, tight and short sentences, using a clear subject, object, and a clear subject, verb, and object if necessary. No filter or no filler, empty filler, and use an active voice. And then also, and I should mention this here, you know, to you guys, I need you guys to be listening on your mobile devices. Now, I don't actually have my phone near me right now, but basically, you know, every one of your phones, at least most of our phones now have a recorder built in. Click the recorder, and you can listen to yourself. Well, you can read your paper paragraph by paragraph and record your voice, and then listen to your voice and reading over it again. I promise you'll be able to see where you have some problems. You really will. And that is really in some ways half the battle. Once you can see that, then you can start to do your own personal editing on your writing just by listening back to your voice. And you might be able, so this guy here in this picture obviously recorded his voice via headphones or a microphone into the computer here, and then he fed that information back out to himself and listened to it, right? Let's keep going. Finally, when you're finished with your rough draft, go to the writing center. You know, and guys, really, the writing center is wonderful. Yeah. You get your first draft done. You use the strainers I said. Then you listen to the whole thing yourself. You make the changes based on what you're listening, because I promise you, when you listen, you're gonna, that needs to be changed. And then finally, when you get all that done and that personal editing done, and you strain your ideas, then go to the writing center. There's you know, here's their website, and again, I'm going to share this presentation with all of you, so you're able to easily access all of these websites by yourself, just directly from the ePortfolio folder that I'm putting on each one of your emails, okay, or into each one of your emails, Google Drives. Okay, so we see here, go to the writing center. send in your writing to the online writing lab, OWL. So that's another really nice thing. And then you will, inshallah, produce fantastic academic writing, i.e. great juice. Okay. And your instructor will be happy to read and drink down your academic writing. Alhamdulillah. Now, you may think, well, great, wonderful. Now I know how to write. I'll just watch this presentation again and again. Well, maybe you think that, and actually I think it would be great if you did watch the presentation again, probably a few times. But there's something else I want to mention. These are tools for you, but you have personal volition. You are given it. Personal volition to decide whatever you want to do. Okay? You have that. It's a great thing about being a human. You can do whatever you want. Now, consequently, you need to start thinking about how you're expressing yourself. And so, and if you're going to adopt the tool. So I see here, a teacher can give you tools, but remember the old English saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. The best teacher in the world can lead you to water, but you have to drink the water yourself. Again, I mean, we're certainly, I'm not saying you guys are horses, you're not. You're much more intelligent. Obviously, human beings are much more intelligent than horses. We humans have more abilities to cognate the world than animals do. But the metaphor is applicable to students and teachers. This teacher, the instructor, the professor, whatever, can give you perspectives, ideas, tools to improve yourself. But you decide if you want to drink those tools, you drink that water. You decide if you want to use those tools. No one can force you. Human beings are fickle, 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 fickle things. We really are. We are fickle, fickle, fickle. Sometimes we want to do something, and sometimes we don't. If you want to do the work, you're going to do the work. You do, and perform well is what I want you to do. But you need to decide. Okay. Now, to complete. So once you've decided to do this, you decide to use these tools. As I said, you have to decide to use these academic tools, the writing tools that I gave you, and then perform well. I think that's kind of the last bit. I need to see you using the tools and then really performing and developing good writing, because there are levels that we need to get you to if you're going to pass my class. I need to see good performance from you. I need to see that ultimately the tools I give you are being used and being applied in the way that we want. And a lot of that is coming in and seeing me in office hours. It's also, as I said, going to the writing center. But performance is key, because performance is ultimately what helps me know if you can continue onward. And the final lesson that I want to say before I sign off, the final lesson of Academia University is you are responsible for your learning. No one else is. Not your parents, not your brothers, not your sisters, not your families, not your classmates, not your girlfriends, and not your boyfriends. No. You. Just you. If you work hard with me, I'm going to work hard with you. And more or less, I have to say that I've had really fantastic students. And I think you guys are great. Please use these tools. But remember, it isn't just using the tools, it's using them well. Developing new ideas. Again, if I'm seeing that idea development, the argumentation development, the ability to critique, the ability to criticize, the ability to think deeper as an academic and as a researcher, it will be reflected in your grade. But I need to see that. I need to see the performance. If I do not see these things, even after creating this podcast and meeting with you guys and telling you about this in class, if I still don't see it, that will also be reflected in a weaker grade. So I need to see this. And remember, we have applicable goals. For my 1010 courses, we want you guys to be ready for 1020 in February. And for the 1020 course that I'm teaching, we want you by the end of the semester to really develop strong research and then be able to turn it in and have things finished. And really do a great job in that process. That's what we want to see for you. But ultimately, again, you are responsible for your learning. No one else is. Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you all very, very much. And yeah, I look forward to getting your essays and writing soon. Okay, take care, everybody.